I was gonna ask you to dance, but you don't know how to dance. I love that music.
Definitely not a dancer.
Welcome and good morning to TLC Live, like every Wednesday at 11. Today we are sharp at 11. We are sharp today in everything.
I'm always sharp. I don't know about you.
Well, I'm only sharp because I was with you because
Right.
we were yesterday in Gregg County and also we were in Plano, Texas. Plano, Texas.
Plano.
Plano and Plano.
With the Plano Republican women, and it was a standing room only audience, which was pretty impressive.
I know it was a full house, and everybody was listening to your story. Very interesting story, and we got a good feedback, and we also got a good support from them. And we need more Latinas in that group.
We're getting there.
Yeah, we're getting there. So good morning, Orlando.
Good morning.
We were driving this morning. Actually, we were just got here in the studio, and as soon as we arrived, the rain started.
Yeah, so
It's
if you
crazy.
hear some loud noises, it's not us in the studio, it's the thunder outside.
So today we have a pretty interesting show. We have two guests that we're waiting for them to call us in and bring them live to our show. But also we want to talk about our trip to Plano, Texas. As we said, we were having lunch yesterday with an amazing group of women, Republican women, very conservatives, in that they want to also learn about the Latino community. They want to know how they can help us to reach the Latino community. And then after that, right there, we went to Gregg County. It's like 2 hours from Plano to, what was the name of the city?
She wouldn't know because she slept the whole trip. But yes, it's 2 hours, and
That's
it's,
true. You were my Uber.
east of Plano.
You were
and
my
just
Uber.
south of Longview.
Thank God you had my son next to you.
Yeah,
But he also fell asleep.
I had a good co-pilot, but they were both knocked out.
So also we were only, we also were having a good crowd when we went to Gregg County. It was people from Tyler, Texas, Longview,
Kilgore,
and also what is the jail?
the jail.
Yeah, the federal jail. Huntsville. It was somebody from Huntsville.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, an Argentinian
Okay.
that he was there. He was from around the Huntsville
And we
area.
actually had 4 Latin American countries represented at the Gregg County dinner last night. We had a Colombian, we had a Cuban, we had a Mexican immigrant from Juarez, and we had a fellow from Argentina. So, it was pretty diverse for East Texas.
And the topic and the common topic that everybody was talking, not only in Gregg County, but also in Plano, Texas.
Plano.
Okay, Plano. It was the crisis in the border.
Right.
And, many women approached to me because you were busy talking to everybody. Everybody wants to just you were overwhelmed with all those women talking to you. They were pretty impressed.
Lucky guy.
They were pretty impressed with you.
One of the great things about speaking to Republican women's clubs around Texas is that the Texas Federation of Republican Women is, in my opinion, the backbone of the Republican Party of Texas. They're the work engine of the conservative movement in Texas. So anytime I get an invitation to speak to any Republican women's club, it's something that I really enjoy doing because they listen, they take notes, but they also put themselves to work, and they want to know how they can reach out to the Latino community, what can they do to better engage the community, and they're very sincere about that.
Yeah, and they were taking a lot of notes. And so some of them approached to me and they were asking me about many questions that I was amazed that they don't know about our culture, our community. And also the common question for you, it was the crisis in the border and how not only is a crisis in the border right now, but it's how it's going to impact the big cities like Houston, Dallas, Austin, and San Antonio. And today, Governor Greg Abbott is in Dallas right now. As we speak, I think he is giving a press conference or now or at noon, talking about what is going on in the convention center. Mm-hmm. So let's talk about that a little bit, Orlando. You know better than me, but that way we lead to the story that he was covering from one of the English stations last night at the Gregg County, and we were on the news exactly talking about the crisis on the border.
Yeah, so I mean, I don't know a lot. Frankly, I haven't been down to the border or my place down in Kinney County in a while. But as I understand, we're starting to see the waves of the unaccompanied minors. First of all, just sort of an editorial comment. We're the only country in the world that parents would choose to abandon their kids and send them off to a foreign country alone. Because nobody sends their children to Venezuela.
Yeah.
Nobody sends their children to Honduras.
No.
Nobody sends their children to Russia.
To Colombia.
Africa, China,
Yeah.
Colombia. Mm-hmm. We're the only country that has the generosity to receive folks, and particularly minors, and then provide for them. Of course, when we were providing for them under the Trump administration, they were cages and jails, right? Now they're tents and plexiglass, and they still use the same cages, but the media doesn't talk about that. But we're the only country in the world that folks entrust their children to. I mean, it's just an editorial comment. No,
how do you send your kids? I mean, I wouldn't send my kids
I
nowhere by themselves.
I understand, but
nowhere.
But if you're living in the slums of Honduras or Guatemala and there's violence and they're threatening your children because the gang members and the thugs want to recruit them and the kids don't want to and the parents don't want to, and they're under death threats, they may have no other options than to send them through Mexico into the United States because they have a tia or a tío that live there. And that's exactly what's going on.
So that's a better option for them.
It's the only option. And, because our country doesn't have an effective border policy. It's one thing one day, it's another thing the next day. It's, stay in Mexico, and then the next day it's come across, and then it's catch and release, and then it's, well, we got to test you for COVID. No, we're not testing you for COVID. Oh, you can jump on the bus and go to North Carolina, Virginia, wherever. And now we're going to use taxpayer money not only to educate over 3,000, you guys do the math. Let's say on average it costs $15,000 a year to educate a child. Multiply that by 3,000. Now we provide them health care. Now we provide them housing. And the United States federal government, through, I'm assuming, the Department of Homeland Security, is going to be the largest adoption agency in the world, right? I mean, that's just a ridiculous policy. And it's a crisis. There's no question about it. President Biden, has his head buried in the sand, and of course the media gives him a pass. But it is a crisis, and we'll hopefully have some folks who live down in the Rio Grande Valley who will give us a first-hand account of what's going on down there. But the thing is, you and I, the taxpayers, are not only having to pay state taxes and county taxes and school taxes. And we got April 15th coming up, and you're going to pay federal taxes. Now, those federal taxes are supposed to fund ICE, which, by the way, a lot of the liberal leaders in Harris County want to abolish ICE. Good timing. Arlena Hidalgo, the county judge, we have pictures of her marching downtown Houston with a big sign that says abolish ICE. That was, right after they wanted to defund the police. And so not only are you paying federal, state, local taxes, but your state taxes that should be going into infrastructure in the state, public health in the state, and other important things to address issues facing Texans, legal residents of Texas, you're spending almost $1 billion every year to send the DPS, Department of Public Safety, to do the job that the federal government is supposed to be doing. And on top of that, if it weren't enough, the governor had to call in the National Guard. And so we're hoping, and I'm not saying it's just Biden's fault. Congress has been pretty useless with respect to border laws and changing immigration policy over the last 40 years. And so it's time Congress actually does something. I mean, I guess I do appreciate, the members of Congress from the Republican Party that showed up to find out what's going on at the border. But frankly, This has been going on for 5 years. And if members of Congress don't know what's going on, shame on you guys. I mean, just call any Texan. We'll tell you what's going on down at the border. So it's just a fiasco. It's ridiculous. It's actually embarrassing that, the greatest country in the world is incapable of securing its own southern border. And so everybody's taking advantage of it. And it's not just taking advantage of it. They're taking advantage of the American taxpayer. We're a loving country. We're an accepting country. She's an immigrant. I'm an immigrant. Most people we know are immigrants. Mm-hmm. And so we're not anti-immigrant, but we realize that there are limits to our resources. We can't feed as much as we'd want to the entire world. So we have to have laws. We have to have limits. The American taxpayer can only afford so much. We have our own self-interests to take care of. We have to educate our children. We have millions of legal Texas Hispanic children that are suffering from diabetes. They're dropping out of schools. I mean, we've got to take care of our own. And yes, we can accept 1 million new naturalized citizens every year, which we do, Andrea.
Yeah.
Every year we swear in 1 million new U.S. citizens that come from every corner of the world. But what's going on our southern border in Texas is an affront to the communities in South Texas, to the counties in South Texas, which the majority are hardworking, tax-paying Mexican Americans. And they resent it. And the Democrats to this day are still scratching their head, wondering why the Texas border counties voted for Trump. Yeah. Well, you're watching it on the news. And I repeat this, because those border counties have limited resources. And those immigrants are sucking up the EMS, the emergency medical services. They're tying up their hospitals. They're tying up law enforcement. There isn't enough infrastructure in South Texas to support the human waves that are coming over. And the federal government is failing Texas.
So we're going to play the piece from
NBC.
From NBC, and the station is in Tyler, Texas. And Lauren, the reporter, a young reporter that I was talking to her, she graduated in Florida, and she said, my first job is in Texas, and I love Texas because it's a very conservative state. And that's why I'm so in love with Texas. And I don't see myself in another state different than Florida or Texas, because I want to live in a conservative state.
Well, Florida's pretty conservative.
That's what I'm saying.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, that's why she said that Florida or Texas.
Yeah, but she likes boots.
Yeah,
and cowboys.
No, she said she loved it.
Well, anyway.
So so she came to Gregg County to interview us and talk exactly about the crisis on the border. So let's play.
And tonight, the Gregg County Republican Party and members of the Texas Latino Conservatives met to meet to talk about politics and policy.
One topic was immigration. KETK's Lauren Margolis was at Maria's restaurant in Kilgore, where the gathering was held.
Immigration at the border is a headline in Texas, and a conversation that the Gregg County Republican Party isn't afraid to have. Today, they sat down to talk to Texas Latino Conservatives to discuss that, along with many other things. The vice chair for the Gregg County Republican Party shares her thoughts on the influx of migrants crossing the border.
I've seen firsthand how dangerous it can be to have unaccounted people coming across the border in such a mass influx.
Gamboa was born in Mexico and says a big concern of hers is human trafficking. She says traffickers can convince immigrants to come to the U.S. in unsafe ways rather than going through the application process.
We're not against that Latinos come into this country, but we want them to come in a legal way, like I did.
The Gregg County Republican Party feels strongly about the topic.
We do believe we need to do some immigration reform to make it to where it's easier and more welcoming for other people to come over.
Because they say something has to change.
The new administration is allowing pretty much everybody to come, and it's not putting limits and it's not enforcing the law, and we have crisis in the border.
And this group says that what sits at the border could soon be moving into other parts of Texas. Lauren Margolis, KTK News.
Great story, and thank you, Michelle Gamboa, to put this event together. Thank you to everybody that make the effort and the time to be with us. And we asked Michelle because we wanted to test our link. Finally, we see we can bring her on to talk about the event and the effort that she made. And also, this is the first time, and that's why we got coverage from the news. This is the first time that such an event is happening in Gregg County. So let's see if Michelle is listening to us, and she can click on the link on the description. Michelle, click on the link, and then let's see if we can bring you live to the show and talk about the event. So we didn't have many Latinos last night, but this is that's what it's a lot of work that we need to do, like engagement the Latinos and motivate them, and for them to participate, not only to go to vote, but in these kind of events to get information and to get educated.
Yeah, there were some pretty simple questions that are being asked of us. In other words, how do we deliver a conservative message? And obviously the answer is very simple. If you're a hardworking immigrant, legal or otherwise, undocumented, doesn't matter for this purpose of this discussion, but if you're a hardworking Texan of Hispanic descent that has voted Democrat, voted liberal because, well, that's what your grandparents did and that's what your parents did, stop and think about this. This is what you tell them. Last year, if you bought 10 gallons of gasoline for your car, you paid $14 and probably 30 cents at $1.40 a gallon. Today, if you buy the same 10 gallons of gas, you're going to pay $26. Because gas is $2.69 up in Longview and Tyler. We saw it as high as $2.80. Yeah, it's an incredible amount of increase for a gallon of gasoline. There is no economic, no market explanation for such an increase other than that the Democrats have begun to assault the oil and gas industry in Texas and in the United States. First thing they do, they shut down the Keystone pipeline that was going to come down with additional products for refining and creating work here in the Houston refining area along Pasadena and 225. Number two, they've already said that federal lands are off limits for energy exploration. And all of their policies are hammering the oil and gas industry, which a lot of people in Texas depend on. And so that's why the cost of a gallon of gasoline or a barrel of oil is increasing. It's just market psychology. So it's costing us more. Then on top of that, I know a lot of you guys are excited because the federal government sent you a redistribution of our tax dollars. So either you got $700 last year, and you're probably on the verge of getting another $1,400. Now, I understand for a lot of people, $1,400 will help pay the rent and buy some groceries for a month or so. But at the end of the day, we're paying for that. And so we have a Congress that passed, just the Democrats, not the Republicans, because the Republicans wanted a more a pared down financial aid package. But it's $2 trillion added to the $30+ trillion debt and the multi-trillion-dollar deficit that we have every year. Folks, who pays for that? You and I do. I mean, the government in Washington, the United States printing office doesn't print dollars. We have to send those dollars. There's only two ways Washington gets money. From our tax dollars, or they go with hat in hand to China and they borrow the money from China. End of the story. That's the bulk of our debt is owed to China, foreign countries. Some of you that are U.S. Treasury bondholders, yeah, we owe you. And then the American taxpayer. That's where the money comes from. It doesn't grow on a tree. So this check that you're going to get for $700 or $1,400, that came from somebody else that's working. That came from Andrea and me and everybody that's working. And so, there's no such thing as a free lunch. There's no such thing as free money. This is a free market economy. We all have to contribute. Yeah, we agree there's a crisis, but, I think the crisis was made worse, was exacerbated by the federal government, imposing upon states their will to get the economies shut down. And so we've got problems.
Nothing is for free.
Nothing
they
is
said
for
in my
free.
country.
Yep.
And everywhere, I guess, it's the same. Nothing is for free. When people tell you it's free, it's not free.
And those of us that are immigrants from Latin American countries, we've seen this movie before. We've seen where Hugo Chavez and Maduro and Fidel Castro and the Sandinistas in Nicaragua promise you all kinds of things till they run out of money, till they can't pay their international debt that they owe, till they've ruined their economic free market base, so there's no production, so there's no taxes being paid, and so they're broke, and all of a sudden they can't provide anything. And so that's why when you tune in to the national media, you see Venezuelans fleeing Venezuela to Colombian and surrounding countries, and unfortunately, you see them starving to death. There's no medical supplies. Children are eating out of dumps, public dumps, like they did in Nicaragua a few years ago. And you guys think that it may not happen in America, but at the end of the day, if you look at the debt that we have, and we look at the liberal left, the socialists in this country trying to shut down our capitalist economic system, because the first thing they want you to do is they want you to hate capitalism. They want you to hate free markets. They want you to forget the Constitution. They want you to forget that we live in a country that cherishes liberty. And so they want to control every aspect of your life. During the pandemic, they wanted to tell you when you could go to church and when you couldn't, when you could get together with your family and when you couldn't. I mean, it's just excessive. And, you know, everybody thinks, oh, yeah, the federal government's going to take care of us. No, they're not going to take care of you. When they run out of money, they're not taking care of anyone but themselves, because when the economy collapses in socialist countries, the only people that are taken care of are the people at the top, the people that have been skimming the money off the top. And so you and I will be left to fend for ourselves. That is the end of socialism. And that's not how we live in this country. We live in a free market country where we all work, we all contribute, we all pay taxes. Yeah, people say, well, Social Security is socialism, Medicare is socialism. Yeah, we do have safety nets in this country because we're compassionate, God-fearing people that want to provide for our fellow Texan, our fellow U.S. citizen that has hit hard times. But we're not a welfare state, folks. And that's what the liberal left in this country is trying to do, is convince us that we need to move more towards a welfare state. And that's why they trash capitalism. That's why they trash corporations. And that's what's going on.
Well, we're having issues with the link that we sent to our guest.
Well, it doesn't surprise me with this weather.
Yeah, so apparently it's not working. And Michelle was trying to connect, and Luis is trying to connect, and also Frank is trying to connect. Everybody's trying, but even the producer is trying. He said it's not working.
Yeah. So
I don't know if it's the weather or it's not the weather, but I'm concerned about all of these things that is happening in the border, Orlando, the impact that we're gonna get in the big cities. But also, I was telling you yesterday that I sent a story that I got, a lead of the story, to one of the national correspondent in Telemundo. And the story was that many people that is coming to the border or try to cross the border are getting kidnapped by the coyotes.
Of course they are.
But it's even worse now than before, of course, because now
they know la
oferta y la demanda. La oferta y la demanda.
But who's facilitating that?
Of course.
President Biden.
Of course, it's la oferta y la demanda. So now they see that these, people are coming like in caravanas, and it's a lot of people, so they taking advantage of that, and it's not enough for them that they already paying them to bring them to the country, but no, they want to kidnap them and ask for $6,000, $10,000, and these people are afraid. And it was a rescue a couple of days ago. It was a rescue in McAllen. They rescued the immigrants. They sent them back to the border, and these people were so afraid that they're gonna get killed.
Yeah. Well, but look, let me tell you, there's a million issues facing Texans today, yesterday, and tomorrow with respect to the failed policies and the lack of implementation of United States law by the Biden administration. Because let me tell you, people say, well, Orlando, it's unfair to blame Biden. No, it's not. He is the executive branch of the federal government. So here's how it works. We have the legislative branch, and through Congress, they appropriate money for the different departments. Who is the head of those departments is the executive branch. It's the President of the United States. He administers immigration and customs enforcement. He is the commander-in-chief of the military. He oversees the Securities and Exchange Commission. He oversees the Federal Communications Commission. He oversees the Justice Department, which includes the FBI and the Attorney General. And so, yes, it is the executive branch's fault that we have a crisis on the southern border of the United States that is disproportionately impacting Texans. And we cannot stand for this. Even undocumented aliens that are already here and have been here are just, they're dropping their jaws. They just can't believe that this is going on. And so, you know, there's nothing more, there's no more intense passion in humanity than self-preservation, right? And even the illegal aliens that cross the border and have been here for a year or two or three and have a business, you know, a landscaping business, or they're in the construction business or driving trucks, hauling dirt or whatever, they don't want the illegal aliens here because it drives down their wages. And so it's just ridiculous.
It's getting, it's now under control, and this is going crazy, and we don't know. This is just the beginning. I mean, this new administration just started.
Well, but, you know, it's a predictable beginning. You know, I got to tell you, there's a difference between conservative leadership in this country and liberal leadership in this country. We broadcast out of Houston, Texas. This is Harris County, the third largest county in the United States. We have pictures of the county judge marching down the streets of Houston with banners that say, eliminate ICE, abolish ICE, defund the police. Here are the consequences of that. The homicide rate in Houston has skyrocketed. We set a record last year. We're on pace now in March to break last year's record of homicides. But that doesn't happen serendipitously. Somebody didn't snap their finger and decide, well, we're going to start committing violent crimes and homicides in Harris County. That's a result of the liberals that we elected to the Commissioner's Court and their movement to eradicate cash bonds in Harris County in the judicial system. What's a cash bond? When you're suspected and charged in a crime, a heinous crime, under the Texas Penal Code, you are put in jail by the local sheriff. If you want to get out of jail, you've got to go to the state district court, criminal court, and appear before a judge. And the judge will set a bond. A bond is a cash guarantee that you will show up when the judge says you have to come back to be adjudicated for your crime. In Harris County, they have virtually eliminated the bonding of criminal defendants, and they have started to issue what's called personal recognizance bonds, meaning you just sign a little piece of paper and you look the judge square in the eyes and you say, hey, Judge, I'll be back. And so when these people walk out of the courtroom, out of the jailhouse, what are they doing? They're committing a murder. They're committing violent crimes in Harris County. So is it any surprise that Harris County is suffering one of the largest crime waves that we have experienced in decades? And so there are consequences to the liberal left and their policies. And just look at every major city in America. Houston was one of those shining stars until it went off the cliff in 2018. They swept out all the conservatives. They brought in all the radical liberals, and here we are.
We have a comment from Juan Rodriguez. He said, everything has domino effect. I believe more and more Hispanics are waking up.
I agree. I mean, we travel the state of Texas virtually every week. I mean, we have been from Odessa to Lubbock to Midland to El Paso to Palestine, Texas, to Plano last night, to Tyler, to Longview, to Kilgore. We're going down to the Rio Grande Valley. We literally have seen thousands of Latinos, and not one of them agrees with the liberal left policy.
No.
And yet, they're voting for the Democrats. And so that's what's amazing to me. And that's why I said last night in the speech, if you want to relate to a Latino and talk to them about the consequences of voting for the liberal left, just explain to them that last year their paycheck went a lot further. It was cheaper to buy gas than it is today. And by the way, your taxes are going to increase. Make no doubt about it that the Democrats in Washington have to pay for these giveaways, and the way they're going to pay for it is by raising taxes. So, next year when your paycheck is a little smaller because you look at your FICA tax and your Social Security tax, that went up. That means your paycheck went down. And you're paying more for a loaf of bread and that gallon of gasoline because, oh, by the way, the minimum wage, somebody's got to pay that minimum wage. And so that loaf of bread that cost you $1.50 at the store is going to cost you $2. So now you're paying $2 for the loaf of bread. You're paying more for gasoline. You're paying more in taxes. Your paycheck is smaller. Those are the consequences, folks. That's the consequences of electing the liberal left in this country.
But people are getting excited because they're getting a third check from the stimulus.
Yeah.
So
I'm really fired up about that.
Yeah, so they think that because they're getting $1,400 or because they're getting another $700 or per child or they're getting somehow...
No, or guaranteed income. Yeah. Guaranteed income for life. Because there's some liberals in Washington, D.C. that think it's unfair that people that didn't go to school, didn't study, didn't prepare, and don't have a job, decided to take a lifestyle which abused drugs and substances, and so they can't contribute to society. There are literally liberal congressmen in Washington, D.C. that believe that you and I as taxpayers owe them a paycheck the rest of their lives.
Yeah.
I'm not kidding, folks. A paycheck for life for not working. Unbelievable.
This is crazy. So, Texas Latino Conservatives, it's always, we're making our best and our effort despite the pandemic. Last year we were limited on going and talk to people and do our things, but this year it's looking better. But we need your support. We need you with us. So go to TexasLatinoConservatives.com, become a member, help us to help, because we cannot do all the things that we're doing without the support of the community. We cannot do everything that we're doing without people believing this really and
believing in our country and
in our country y
Constitution.
ponernos la camiseta. When it's ponerte la camiseta, wear the t-shirt. When I came to this country in 1997, I was looking for better opportunities. And I certainly got better opportunities. I came without speaking a word in English, and I still working on my English, as Orlando correct me every day, and even my kids. I still working on my English, but you know what? I love this country. I love this country as much as I love my country. I am from Colombia. I love my country from the bottom of my heart, but this country gave me the opportunities that I'm sure I will never be able to get it in my country. And I was never thought or dream, were many dreams, yes, but never thought it was going to come true. Like work for a news, be on TV, be a broadcaster. Not able to, at the beginning I was not speaking a word in English, and I made it. I was able to buy a house, I was able to buy a car, and now that I am I'm divorced with 2 kids, I'm able to support my kids. And I never thought I don't think I was gonna be able to do it in my country the way I can do it in this country. This country, it's an amazing country. So we need to love this country. We need to wear the shirt, ponernos la camiseta, and fight for this country. And the best way to do it, this country gave us so much, and we need to give back. But not sitting and waiting for another check. No, that's not the way.
Yeah, I mean, the best way is to follow the law. This is a country of laws, and it's becoming a lawless country. I mean, again, anybody watching the news will realize that it is utter lawlessness south of the border. And it's frankly embarrassing that we can't, as Americans, come together. I'd love it to be a bipartisan effort because this is hurting Democrats as well.
Of course.
I mean, Democrats are having to pay taxes to support these waves of undocumented aliens coming through. They're the ones whose wages are going down. Even you Democrats that are union members, this isn't helping you. It's not helping you that, people that may have skills like welders or bricklayers are coming across the border and are working for $12 an hour when you guys were enjoying, $38 an hour. That's not helping you. It's not helping Democrats. It's hurting the American taxpayer. It's hurting America because we are stuffing a huge amounts of undocumented aliens into our school system who have no grasp of the English language, let alone any sense of history of the United States, because, the public schools, the public schools are teaching that America is horrible. What we did years ago, 300 years ago to the natives in this country. Humanity has done some ugly things to each other. Mm-hmm. But America in general is a generous, compassionate, giving country. We are the most generous country when it comes to contributions to members of the United Nations. When, there was an AIDS epidemic in Africa, we gave our money, our tax dollars, our scientific research to curb the deaths in Africa under George W. Bush. When there's famine in any part of the world or natural disasters, we send our naval hospitals, we send our military, we send our rescue helicopters, we'll send our local firefighters to earthquake-bound areas. I mean, there's no country that's more generous than the United States.
That's
so
amazing.
Don't believe the news that, we're horrible people and we're mistreating undocumented aliens. That's not true. We go out of our ways. Border Patrol. You know what they spend most of their time doing besides changing diapers? Rescuing people.
Yeah.
They're EMTs. They all carry
Why they don't show that on the news when
Never.
these people are giving them water, giving them food?
Medical
help. Yeah.
Yeah, no, because the aim of the media in the United States is to portray us as a horrible immigrant-hating country.
Yeah.
And that's what the American people believe. I mean, they believe that's actually what we are. Here's what's horrible. When a coyote is running from the Department of Public Safety or the Border Patrol down in South Texas along a highway, and they're doing 100 miles an hour, and they head on, like they did the other day, a vehicle,
Oh my God.
kill a family of innocent
A
people.
mother with 3 kids.
Well, that was in Houston. That was drunk. That was a drunk driver.
That was you're talking about the other one.
We're going to get into that. That's another failure
Yeah.
of the Harris County Democrats. The sheriff pulls over a man who clearly is intoxicated, lets them go, and then 2 minutes later goes and slams into the rear of a family's car, kills the mother and 3 children. And nobody in the local media will go ask the local Democrat sheriff, what the hell happened? I mean, clearly the guy had a 2.3 alcohol level, and he got pulled over by the Democrat sheriff, and they let him go? And a man loses his wife and 3 children? Are you kidding me? That's the consequence of electing liberals in counties across the state of Texas. But the tragedy is that these coyotes, these human smugglers who are running away from law enforcement down in South Texas, are coming down highways at high rates of speed, and they're slamming into innocent tax-paying U.S. citizens and killing families. That's what's going on. They're running through fences and tearing up ranches. All the cattle get out into the highway. I mean, they're creating mayhem. No, the liberal left media in this country will not report that.
Know what is going to happen with all of these kids that is coming here.
You and I are going to adopt them.
And the school system is already not working.
No, half of the children, Hispanic children that started Houston Independent School District last year will not graduate in 4 years.
So all of these kids, they have to go to school somehow at some point.
Yeah.
And the schools are already overwhelmed.
Yeah. Not only are they overwhelmed, they don't want to teach. The teachers union doesn't want to teach.
They're having a lot of kids in one classroom. And they're not learning.
And by the way, your highest property tax rate is your school district tax rate.
I pay a lot of taxes on that, and my kid's not even going to public school.
Right.
So imagine.
Double taxed again.
Of course.
You're double taxed on immigration, you're double taxed on education, and you're going to be double taxed because now you're going to have to support 3,500 kids. That's just yesterday's
That's
number.
just now. That's just now. Just wait till next week and the following week, because this has just started.
Yeah. No, it's tragic. It's terrible for our country. And, anyway, that's what the Democrats want. That's what the liberal left want. And so they're getting it. I hope you guys don't have buyer's remorse or voter's remorse, let's say, like Harris County residents do.
Yeah. So anyway, Orlando, we couldn't connect with our guests, unfortunately. Hopefully next Wednesday is going to be better. I don't know if it has to do with weather, internet, or what, but
Anyway.
but we had a great trip. Thanks again in Plano, Texas, and I'm going to say Plano, Texas, and Gregg County people, and they were wonderful with us. They were wonderful, and we're so happy that these things are happening, and that they really want to reach out to our community. But the most important thing, not only did they want to reach out to our community, they want to understand our community. Because as I said yesterday, we Latinos, it's not the same to talk to the Mexicans that the Central Americans or the South Americans. We are a completely different world, even though that we speak the same language. Sometimes I have problems to understand the Spanish to the people from Puerto Rico, people from the Dominican Republic, because we are a completely different world. So they're realizing that it's a lot to understand in our community. And
Yeah, but the goal isn't for us to learn their cultures, even though we appreciate people wanting to learn. But the important thing is for the immigrants to learn how to and become Americans.
Correct.
Like every other immigrant.
correct.
That they understand the constitutional system of government, that they understand that we're a country of laws made by the people through our representatives.
Yeah.
And that, we've got a lot to do in terms of education. Look, I tell people all the time, this is when I go speak across Texas, that conservatives in the United States are facing three horrible forces. Number one, the infiltration of the socialist and the liberal left in our education system, both secondary and higher education. And let me be frank, because as they say in Texas, I'm the burr in the saddle. There is no excuse that under Republican leadership in the state of Texas, we have allowed the Board of Regents that we appoint to allow these universities to run off and silence conservatives on campuses. There is absolutely no excuse. So number one, we're facing the liberal left, the socialists that have infiltrated our public education system. The liberal left has infiltrated the editorial boardrooms across this country, whether it's print media, whether it's the news media, or whether it's social media. Because we routinely, as we are appearing on Facebook Live, but sometimes I'm surprised they even allow us to, because once we record this program, you guys know that we pay Facebook money so that we can advertise and boost so we can get more people watching it. We were cut off by Facebook. During the election, we weren't allowed to deliver a conservative message. We're a political action committee under the laws of the state of Texas. We were cut off. We also have a 501c4 nonprofit organization. They cut us off. We educate young Hispanics on the political process in the United States. Facebook cut us off. Twitter cuts off the conservative voice. And so, and then our third element that we're fighting as conservatives in this country is the entertainment industry. All of Hollywood hates conservatives, and so we're having to fight them. And so, as Andrea says, hay que ponerse la camisa.
La
right?
camiseta.
I mean, póngase las pilas, because we've got a lot of work to do. And we've got to learn how to fight back. One of the great things I love to tell people all the time, when the liberal leftists call us conservatives racist, really? Do you guys know that the Republican Party was founded in Wisconsin for one reason and one reason only? It was for the elimination of slavery in this country. Our first president, Abraham Lincoln, signed and delivered the Emancipation Proclamation. When Plessy versus Ferguson, which was a case that was adjudicated in the Supreme Court of the United States to see if separate but equal was constitutional, and the justices agreed, there was only one dissent that said, no, it's not constitutional to make a black man drink out of this water fountain and a white man drink out of that one. He was a Republican.
Yeah.
And in 1964 and in 1965, when the Civil Rights Act and the Voting Rights Act were about to go down in flame because the Democrats, some of them, wouldn't support it in the U.S. Congress, it was the Republicans that came to the aid. And so let's, as conservatives, learn our history and learn how to fight back. Don't let these liberal socialists
brainwash you.
Yeah, exactly. And so, we got to work together. And there's only two teams. There's a red team and a blue team. The blue team's the Democrats and the red team's the Republicans. It's obvious, and I'm speaking for myself. I'll let Andrea talk for herself. But I play on the red team. It's the only place I got to go. Are we perfect? No. We make a lot of mistakes. There's no question about it. But we're certainly far better than the blue team. And so that's our mission. At Texas Latino Conservatives, we try to educate, motivate, and engage the Latino community to start voting their values. And as Andrea said, we rely on the generosity of listeners and our fellow Texans. This is expensive. This studio isn't free. We've got to pay staff. We have technology. We have social media. We have programs. We have copiers.
Trips.
We have computers. It costs us money to buy gasoline to go across the state of Texas. So we rely on contributions. But you don't have to contribute monetarily. I mean, another way you can contribute is you can go to Facebook and like us. And you can share our Facebook page with your friends, your fellow Hispanic. If you're scratching your head wondering what the hell's going on in Texas, we will tell you what's going on in Texas. Not only are we traveling the state, but me being the senior member of the organization, I have 25 years of experience in politics in the state of Texas as a candidate, as an office holder, as a director of a political action committee, as a member of board of directors of many organizations and foundations. I know what's going on. I'll tell you the truth. I'm not going to sugarcoat it. And sometimes I offend conservative Republicans, but I tell it the way it is because I see what's happening and I know what we need to do as conservatives to win over the Latino community. That's the purpose of the Texas Latino Conservatives, is to motivate, engage, and educate everybody, not just Latinos, but our elected officials on what we can do to bring more Latinos into the conservative movement in Texas. And I got to tell you, I'm really disappointed that we have technology issues today because two of our guests are Latino leaders.
I know.
One down in the Valley and one down in Dallas running for office. But folks, I'm telling you, I have traveled thousands of miles across this state in the last few months, and it is incredible the number of conservative Hispanics in the state of Texas. And that's why in April of last year I predicted that Texas Tejanos and Latinos would save the state of Texas. And that's exactly what happened. And if we do our job, and if we work well together with, for example, the Texas Federation of Republican Women as volunteers, we will ensure that Texas continues to be a conservative state for the foreseeable future, and so that your children and grandchildren will have a better future than you did. But we need your help. So like us on Facebook, go to our website. If you can make a financial contribution, do so. But the most important thing is to like us and share us.
And I would say, you say it's two teams, the blue and the red, and I would say it's one team. We need to play for the team of this country. That's what we need. This country, the best things that we can do for this country is contribute.
I mean, the NFL plays for the Super Bowl, but one team's got to win.
Yeah, I know. Yeah.
And the consequences
but we
are bad if the other team
started having conscious of that we're playing is for this country, the gratitude to be grateful in this country and to honor this country for everything that we've been getting in this country. That's a big start. So think about it and educate yourself, and that's the best way that you can start. That way you can play for the best of this country, because the best of this country is going to be the future that we're going to leave to our kids. I'm very worried, I'm almost 50 years old, probably Yes, I am.
She's ready for Social Security.
I'm ready for that. But you know, my kids are 15, and this is their country. They were born here, even though that they love Colombia, but they were born here, and that's what they're gonna live. And I don't know, it's sad to see what is going on and the future that they're gonna have, and the future that their kids gonna have.
Hey, by the way, I wanted to bring up. I'm sorry we didn't have Frank and Luis. We'll get you guys as soon as we finish our technical issues here. But somebody I'm really proud of, and I didn't know this. You mentioned it to me this morning. Chingo Bling.
Chingo Bling,
Tell
I know.
us about Chingo Bling. What? You said there was a big article on him in the Houston
Chingo
Chronicle.
Bling, yeah, Chingo Bling was in a Houston Chronicle this morning, and he posted on social media, and I'm gonna tell you exactly what he posted, or what the.
So while she's doing that, let me just tell you that Chingo Bling is a Mexican American in the east part of Houston, and he. Not only is he a rapper, a great rapper, and he's a musician, and he's a comedian, he's a man of many talents, he's a father, a husband, but he's a conservative, and he's a leader because he is not like the Hollywood left that's, afraid to talk about his values.
Yeah.
He came on our show, and he talks about the conservative values.
And he said that he woke up a year and a half ago, and look at this. Houston Chronicle is say, podcasts from Houston hip hop community find a growing audience.
Yeah. So we're proud of him, and he was very gracious when Andrea reached out to him and invited him to be on our show. So Chingo, if you're watching us, thank you, man, and we're so happy for your success, and we hope that you continue as a rising star in Texas, which we know you are. But if you're not a follower of Chingo Bling, the comedian, the rapper, guys, go check him out. He's a star.
Oh my God, and he knows his things, and his podcast is getting popular, and he's very entertaining.
Hopefully, maybe someday we'll have him fill in for me and just take over my spot.
Oh, imagine, it will be so much fun.
Yeah.
Now, Orlando, you are irreemplazable.
Well, that's nice. But not anyway, true, but that's nice.
No, well, thank you so much for being with us today. Sorry that we couldn't bring our guests, but we're gonna try to reschedule for next Wednesday. Hopefully, everything is gonna work the way we wanted to work this out, because we really wanna hear their stories, and we wanna highlight this the contribution of these Latinos that they wanna run for offices, and what is the message that they're sending to the community. It's a lot to do. It's a lot to do, but
and you know what? Sorry to interrupt you, because I love predictions, right? Mm-hmm. Remember how I predicted in April here on Facebook Live that Tejanos and Latinos would save Texas?
Yeah.
I'm going to make another prediction.
Oh, okay. Let's see.
There will be a record number of conservative Latinos on the ballot across the state of Texas in the next year or two.
Okay. So
a record number.
Mark, please. Take that, that segment,
Mr.
and we're gonna play this again at the end of the year.
2022. We'll see. But anyway, hey, we're out of time. Thank you for joining us. Again, go to our webpage, TexasLatinoConservatives.com. If you're a young person that wants to know everything about politics, how to be a candidate, how to be a precinct chair, how to be a campaign manager, how to be a leader in your community, how to run for school board, how to run for president of the United States. We do that through Leadership Latino. Go to our tab, says Leadership Latino. About every quarter, we have a class where we teach people like Mayra Flores, who's running for the U.S. Congress, one of our big rock stars, join us. It's free of charge. We don't do a lot free as conservatives, but this we do. Actually, it's not free. Our contributors pay for it, but it's a great program. So like us on Facebook, check out our website. Andrea, I'll give you the last word.
And share our Facebook Live, and please become part of our family. Así que nos vemos el próximo miércoles con más información aquí en TLC Live. Ahí tenemos a Mayra Flores. Felicitaciones a Mayra. Felicitaciones, gracias Michelle por habernos invitado a Gregg County. Gracias a todos los que fueron a Gregg County.
Y a Frank, a Luis por atentar.
Por intentar, sí. Frank y Luis, gracias por intentar conectarse con nosotros. Yo pensé que era el internet de ellos, pero no era. Así que bueno, tratamos de conectarnos con ellos el próximo miércoles. Nos vemos y por favor, ingrese a TexasLatinoConservatives.com, denos un like en Facebook y comparta siempre estos videos.
Y si son conservadores, inscríbanse para votar y voten.
Nos vemos el próximo miércoles. Chao, chao. Gracias.